All right, here we go. Today we have former Baton Rouge Kingpin Clarence Robertson, a.k.a. G-Flav, a.k.a. 38 Flav. After making over $1 million during the crack era and reportedly being involved in nearly a dozen homicides, Flav ended up on America's Most Wanted and was sentenced to life plus 40 years. After serving 27 years in prison, Flav is out and here to tell a story. Clarence G. Flav Robertson, welcome to Vlad TV.
Man, thank you. How you doing today? Good. Thank you for having me here.
Very interesting story. So I want to start in the very beginning. Born and raised in Baton Rouge.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All the way in that park, 38th Street.
Now, you were raised by your mother and grandmother because your dad was locked up?
Yes, sir.
What was he locked up for?
My daddy was a gangster, so, you know what I mean? Hey, it was right for me to be a gangster, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, it's in my community, for real, and what I didn't grow, who I didn't grow to become in today's world is from where I come from. And so from my daddy, he was a bad person or he was a gangster in the streets, so that led me to be that. So that's how I look at the YNs today. You know what I'm saying? They got caught up in that crack area where wasn't no daddies. They all went to the penitentiary. So they talk about the YNs. Everybody wild right now today. So my daddy was a gangster. You know what I'm saying? I had my mom and my grandmother. You know what I mean? But it's hard. Same way it is today. It's hard on women to try to raise men. Yeah, but they, you know, that's who I grew up with on 38th Street in that park. 37, 48, 47, out the whole park. Gus Young, that's me.
Now, was he locked up the entire time when you were a kid?
Basically, you know, because, yeah, that's how, you know, it's not at the time, because my father, he was in and out. You know what I'm saying? And he did a long stretch. He did like 15 years. But as he was doing them 15 years, I wound up in the penitentiary with him. You know what I'm saying? And by the time he got out, I was in the feds doing a life sentence. You know, but now again, it wasn't all because of what my father did that made me or forced me to do what I did, because my mother worked every day. It was just me and my choices. I made the choices because my daddy was a gangster. I wanted to be a gangster, you know. But my oldest brother, he didn't want to be a gangster. You know what I mean? So I made that choice. Again, that's what, we all have choices today. So I ain't going to put that on my father. But yeah, he was away, you know.
Well, in junior high, that was the first violent act you were involved in. It involved a butcher knife.
Yes, sir.
What exactly happened?
Well, you know, it's like what they call today is bullies. You know, people always picking on. We called it back then in the 70s, you know, somebody just picking on you. You know, it wasn't no word, no bully or not. But if you look at it scientifically today, it means the same. It's bullying. And that's what happened. A guy that, you know, was a little bigger than me. You know what I'm saying? Me and my man Buster, he kind of, you know, he beat both of us up a couple times together, you know what I'm saying? So, hey, but I got tired of, you know, getting beat up, you know, and I spoke on something, you know, and as I started growing and started learning in life that, you know, that tongue is a powerful weapon. And I told my grandmother if he keep on, you know, that I'm going to kill him, you know. And so one thing led to the other, you know what I'm saying? I wound up in a juvenile institution, you know, for an incident happened. And, you know, I guess that's where it all started at.
Well, the incident you're talking about, you grabbed a butcher knife and you stabbed him in the chest?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you were 14 years old.
Right.
You actually tried to kill him. Right.
But again, you know what I'm saying? I was a juvenile. I was a kid. I went through the juvenile system. You know what I'm saying? And I had a choice when I got out to change my life, but I didn't. Because I felt, you know, power. You know, I started, you know, they was respecting me, the bigger boys. You know what I'm saying? The big dudes in the neighborhood, the OGs, the gangsters, they would start respecting me. So, hey, you know, again, I see so much of that, you know, as that question leads me to say the things that I be wanting to say and speak out for them youth. That right there, me seeing that, and then me turning around and doing that. See, I seen that from where I'm at. Like I said, I'm from the park, 38 Kane. You know what I'm saying? So I seen these things happening. People stabbing people, they shooting people, you know, beating them. And they got respect for that, you know. So that's what, you know, and you know, like I serve, you know. Yeah, that started something.
Okay, so the stabbing incident, you ended up in Bridge City Juvenile for 16 months.
No, actually, I supposed to went there for I went to Mandeville for the juvenile mental institution for evaluation. So,
Oh,
I was 12 years old. They wanted to see what's wrong with the little kid, you know. So he go to church on Sundays with his grandmama and his mother. Now he, what's wrong? You know what I'm saying? He go to school, and so I went there, and I just always had a thing for not being you holding me hostage. That's what I call it. When you lock me up, you hold me hostage. So I started running away. I'm started escaping. So excuse me, as I started escaping, they sent me. That's when I went to Bridge City. So they said, "Well, okay, he won't do right." So they sent me to Bridge City. And that was a hell of an experience. Being a little young kid, and you got guys like they like 16 and 17 and 19 and 20. Big boys. You know what I'm saying? And it had some things going on. But hey, again, I'm from Baton Rouge. You know what I'm saying? And back then, y'all ain't hear too much about Baton Rouge. It was New Orleans, New Orleans, it was the biggest city, but Baton Rouge always was the capital. But they hear about Baton Rouge now. YoungBoy, make sure you hear about Baton Rouge. Boosie, make sure you hear about Baton Rouge. You know what I'm saying? Gates, them boys, Fredo, they make sure you hear about Baton Rouge. So that's how in Bridge City, that's what you had to do, though. As being a little kid that I was, I had to become a man or a big boy because you had to fight for your manhood. You had to fight for your snacks. You had to fight for your little butthole. You know what I'm saying? For real. And like I say, that incident, it spurred off to something real, to who I am today.
well, the first time you tried to escape from juvenile hall, it was to attend a Rick James concert.
That
But you
wasn't
got caught pretty quickly.
Listen, and that wasn't really the first time though, man. Listen, but that was, I'm gonna tell you, man, that was 1981. Super Freak. You hear me? The first concert Rick James, legendary, had on that tour, the Super Freak concert, was Baton Rouge State Fairground. So New Orleans, Lake Charles, Lafayette, Sweet Poe, Texas, they come right there. And he flew in with Tina Marie. You hear me? Tina Marie. You know what I'm saying? We flew in with her, and the concert was that, man, my man, Buster Lance, man, and Tucker, man, listen, man, rest in peace, man, on some good people, man. Hey, they come in and escape it, man. You can't miss this concert. And I escaped that time. You hear me? But see, now the first time I escaped, I was a little bitty boy, like a little fragile little kid. All I did, I ran to this old lady house, old white lady, man. I'll never forget her name is Betty. She'd make me some brownies, give me some milk, and just walk me on back to Bridge City. Walk me back to the institution. I walk home back in the gate like ain't nothing ever happened. So that's when, my first time escaping, man. That was in Bridge City, old lady, man, Miss Betty. I met her, man, because I wound up in her backyard, man. And she started cooking, giving me, every time it's like I just escaped to go over there and get them brownies and milk. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, though, like, for real. But I did some escaping in my time, though. Yes, sir, I did.
Well, in 1982, you were around 15. You escaped again, and you actually were on the run for a few months.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was in like
Okay.
19, I escaped December the 27th, 1982. And and I believe back then, it really, Clarence Robertson really started becoming somebody. I got my first car, you know what I'm saying? Back then I was young, 16, 7, I had my first child, and but I was in them streets that, bad then, and it's like today, they look at it, we got the pills, with the all of the mileage and the Percocets and all that. But see, back then when I'm talking about, we had pills too, but it was T's and blues, D's, K2s, K4s, you know what I'm saying, preludes. So and the game was, I was in it, young, you know what I'm saying. So I started young and before the crack even hit, So when the crack game came around, hey, I was full-fledged institutionalized drug dealer, street guy, whatever you want to call it. I was out there. You know what I'm saying?
Well, when you escaped and you were on the run for a few months, you got involved in various shootings during that time.
But that's that one on that one occasion that basically like, dog, every time I escape, I'm back in the streets. You know what I'm saying? And every shooting go on, it's always me. If it ain't me, it's, somebody in my neighborhood. It's my man, Buster. It's Bo Rob, one of them. They did it. So, but when really one of the escapes that really was something is when I escaped from the feds, and I really didn't know what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? But because them people wasn't nothing to play with. But I escaped, and they had like about 700 and about 40 marshals, U.S. federal agents in Baton Rouge, and I'm walking around, you know what I mean, and I got wigs on, pocketbooks dressed up like women's, you know what I'm saying? True stories. They hit my mama house, surrounded, 100 cars out there, guns, tank trucks, everything out here. I walk right out the door with a pocketbook, 2 9mm in it, wig on, lipstick on, eyebrows on, a skirt on, and high heel shoes. How you doing? Whoop de whoop whoop. Walk straight through them, got in the car and pull off. They went in there and tore my mom's house up. You know what I mean? But hey, it was a bunch of shootouts. You know what I'm saying? So Vlad, when I was in the streets, on for real, I didn't have no say so. The discrimination to who I'm beefing with or what they call beef now, because I don't call it beef then. We had some problems. I dealt with it. You know what I'm saying? They tried to deal with me, evidently they didn't, because I'm here now. But at the same time, it didn't matter if it was the police department, it was the fire department. If you was trying to kill me or hurt me, see, I was going to defend myself, and that's how I thought, that I'm on the defense, so I'm defending myself. You know what I'm saying? So I was, I had a crazy mindset, and on the escape from the feds, it really didn't do nothing, because, come on now, I escaped from the feds, and the way it happened, hey, it's another story. You know what I'm saying?
Well, how old were you when you first shot a gun at somebody?
I don't know now. I got to see, because, I'm only going to tell you about what they got documented or something, because they always say, hey, man, everybody go on Flag, they go to jail. But I don't know, blame the police or something like that.
I'm not asking for any, I'm not asking for names, I'm not asking for location. I'm just saying, what age were you when you first shot a gun at somebody?
About 13.
13 years old.
Yeah, I was about 13 when I first shot at somebody, And when they first arrest me for shooting somebody, I was like 14, so they arrest me for a whole lot of shootings. I ain't never admitted to nothing. I don't want to, because, hey, I don't feel a lot of stuff I wasn't guilty of. Like I said, it was a lot of killing going on, and at my time, the same way it is now. Baton Rouge been off the chain, Vlad. That's why Boosie had the stirs that Boosie had. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, probably say, oh, he just be like, no. He be telling you the truth when he talking about Baton Rouge. You know what I mean? Them young boys, when they talking about they said it's the truth. You know what I mean? But it's been going on. You know what I mean? Say, like, young boy, I love the little boy. You know what I'm saying? And I love, he represent that 38th Street. But it's been going on 38. You know what I'm saying? So, it's the trenches. You know what I mean? We got the good and then had the bad. You know what I'm saying? So I was in that life.
Well, you said in Baton Rouge, you don't do drive-bys, you do walk-ups.
Yeah. And what I mean by that is that, California during my time, that's where the drive-bys came from. They, and then they doing it now. But, my time, we ain't do that. We just walk up to you and right there. Knock on your door, right there. In the club, you sitting at the bar, right there. In the front of the police station, right there. Wherever it was, we just didn't shoot up no cars and 20 people in the cars. We didn't do that in my era, in my generation.
Well, you're going in and out of jail during juvenile, and then you actually try to get into adult jail, but they wouldn't let you in.
No, actually, you're right. I was trying to get to the adult penitentiary, but, you know what I'm saying, and they got an old guy just stopped me the other day and told me about that. I was 15 years old, and I was on escape from the juvenile institute, from LTI, from Scotland, Baton Rouge. I was on escape from that, and I got caught trying to snatch a money sack, because that's what we was doing. We go to the bank, and they, the cars pull up with the money sack. You just snatch the money sack, get cash money, keep it moving, take out running. Everything was about money with us. It didn't matter if it was gunplay, but it was about money. But when they caught me, I lied and said I was 17. So when I say they took me, you had to go to the jail. You stay in the jail about 30 days. Then I wind up in the parish, what we call, East Baton Rouge Parish Plea House. And, our jails is worse than a whole lot of states and cities penitentiaries. Yeah, they jail, but we call it the parish because, Baton Rouge, we the only county. We ain't no county, we parishes. But, and at that time, it was rough. But I wanted to be with the big boys. I wanted to be with the men's. You know what I'm saying? I was, at that age, I thought I was a man. You feel me? Yeah, but I was in the jail with him until one of the deputies, the sheriff, seen me that know my family and know that I ain't supposed to be there, and they come got me. I was like in about 3-4 months, though.
Well, you keep escaping, and at one point, you and your crew started robbing fast food joints.
Yeah, I had
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I had, that was like 85. So I had 21 counts of armed robbery. You know what I mean? We had a couple, 3 counts of murder. And like I said, we was young. At that time, I'm straight out the juvenile institution. I had juvenile life, you know what I mean? But I'm escaping. I did like 4 years. So we robbing everything. McDonald's, Burger King. Again, we got caught. We went to, wind up. They broke the charges down, copped out, made a deal, and went to the penitentiary. All of us. But yeah, that's what we was on back then. See, it's a different now. Again, we was about money. It didn't matter if we was into it with another neighborhood or what was going on with the gunplay. We was gonna get some money. And that was our way of money. We ain't had rap back then. You know what I mean? We knew how to do that. But we knew how to rob.
I mean, what was the most you ever got from robbing a fast food spot?
Oh, we were hitting like about, at that time, 85, beginning 86, we getting $40,000, $50,000. We knowing the money in the safe,
Okay.
And not just that, because I'm going to tell you, because I got convicted of it. I went to prison for it, or moan and cut insurance, and, I didn't even do that. My mans them did it, but I copped out. I took the charge, you know what I'm saying? Because if I don't plead guilty to it, because the police lied and say that I got picked out on the photo lineup. If I don't plead guilty, they're going to convict these two, and these two going to get 50 years for the robbery. But if I plead guilty, they only going to give me 6. But like, they hit the moan and cut insurance, and they come out there like, I'm talking about this 85, and we're like about $120,000, Come straight to my spot, break it down. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, we was getting money back then because we wasn't just going to get no cash ready. You know what I'm saying? We was getting the safe, And it got to the point to, Baton Rouge, I'm talking about, they was off the chain. They had all kind of little crews out here. Shout out to the bandana boys. Shout out to them 40 boys, yeah. But that's how we got money back then, though. We just straight took it.
Well, there was a situation where I guess they were trying to arrest you and you ended up killing a horse?
No, I was in the juvenile institution. And I had juvenile life, you know what I'm saying? And the only way I could get off the yard is they had a basketball team, they had boxing team, and they had the choir for the church. So I was in everything, but they would never let me leave and go to the churches and go to the basketball games. But one day they had a thing on a Sunday at a church in my neighborhood, on 46 in that park. And I wanted to go bad. They wouldn't let me go, so I went crazy, and I grabbed a hoe, what we call a hoe, which you cut weeds and trees with. I grabbed that off the back of a truck, one of the officers' truck, and the captain, she on the horse, and she chasing me, trying to run over me with the horse, and I jump up to the side, hit the horse around the neck, then hit her side the head, but she had a wig on way back then, just knocked the wig off her head, you know what I'm saying? But I was trying to knock her head off for real, Yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? I had some episodes, yeah.
Well, by 1986, you're about 19 years old, you end up having your first daughter.
That's right. No. I had my first daughter, I was 17, 16, but that's when I got out to be with her. Really, I came home in 85 and was with her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a daughter, but the daughter's mother gets accidentally killed during the shooting.
Right.
What exactly happened?
It's just, like I say, I really don't know, because at the time, you know what I'm saying, I was locked up, but I got out. I was in the jail, and it's just something the guy was playing with a gun. You know what I'm saying? And it went off and hit up under the face, hit up under the eye, and kill her. You know what I'm saying? She was young then, so that was that.
Yeah, well, you said that really affected you. It hardened you up.
Yeah, it hardened me for real toward, in the wrong way. It hardened me toward females because it hurted me. You know what I'm saying? And I had a feeling that I didn't want to feel no more. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want to go through this here about what I just felt with her. So therefore, I just started having this woman, that woman, you know what I'm saying? And really caring for them, but don't want to lock my whole heart into it, because I feel like I'm being hurt. And at the same time, I was hurting other people, so that's what it hardened my heart toward loving another woman.
Well, right around that time, you end up accumulating 21 counts of robbery.
Right.
And then you got sentenced to Angola prison.
Right.
Now, is this the first time you're going to adult prison for like a long stretch?
Right, and then that wasn't even long, because I wouldn't have, and I didn't get nothing, but like, we got 9 years, 7 years, 10 years. We wouldn't have went to Angola. Only reason why I went to Angola is because I was acting a fool in the parish, in our jail. And I had caught a lot of stabbings, like about 4 stabbings in there. That's the only reason they sent me to Angola, because back then you wasn't going to Angola unless you had a life sentence. And when you go to Angola, you was going to be a man, or you was going to be, the other side. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but I wound up going there. That was because of my incident, but that was the second time I was in the state system. Because the first time is from when I did that to that horse and hit that officer. They charged me when I was in LTI, in the juvenile institute. So they sent me to DeQuincy, to another prison, for with DeQuincy wasn't nothing but a daycare center ready to send you to the adult spot, send you to Angola. So yeah, that was the second time.
Well, you serve your time in Angola and you get out in 1989. You're around 22. And at this point, the crack era is full blown in Baton Rouge. What was different when you got out during that time?
The difference was that my mans on 38th Street, my homeboys, they had money, and they had crack money, they had dope money. And so therefore they didn't want me to jump out there doing what I did before I went in, And so now when I come home and it's guys that I knew from other neighborhoods, that was getting money, that I grew up with in the juvenile institutions or in the jails. So they looking at it like, well, you ain't got to come out here robbing, you ain't got to come out here killing it, just get this money this way, So I dibbed and dabbed with it, but see, for real, I I ain't never stand on no corner selling no drugs. I preferred, I sell a few bricks and then I take them, and I resell them, so, and I said, I was selling grits, I was selling flour, you hear me? Yes, sir, real famous for the Baton Rouge. They talk about it right out of the day. I gave you, listen, I had the expensive breakfast you ever could have, $40,000. Yes, sir, 2 cold boxes of grits, $20,000 a piece. See, that type of stuff. And then got that already, because I just not sold your man 4 bricks. You see what I'm saying? Now you come, I give you a dummy. I was just, because I felt like I could do that,
Well, yeah, when you came home, your friends gave you 20 ounces of cocaine and $10,000. Which is like a little more than half a brick. And now you're basically a drug dealer. And you end up getting a plug with the Mexicans.
Right.
And they started supplying you weight.
See, I meet the Mexicans through my homies and them, because they sending their money to get the work. And as they sending the money, they sending so much money, they need it protected. You see what I'm saying? And who they sending it with, he ain't gonna bust a grape. You know, somebody if they throw a gun at him, they could take the money. So I started going with him. So the people seeing me started coming this far with these 2 guns and wondering like, what is wrong with him? How is he thinking? Why did you come way up here with all this money? Then you got these guns, now you finna go all the way back to Louisiana with them guns and all these drugs. But after we go to talking, I let them know, hey, I'm coming to protect this money and I'm by any means necessary. And they see I stood on business. And I'm telling you, it was just that simple. Till they pulled me to the side and wanna, tell me you could do this, we could do this like this here. Whatever you come get, we gonna front you that. And that's how our relationship started. So instead of me coming down there scoring for the neighborhood, for the homies, I just go take their money and go and score for me. You see what I'm saying? And come right back, get rid of it, get them part of it, and I flipped it like that. Now I got the plug. Now I'm the man. But now, I never portrayed to be the man, though. You see what I'm saying? So that's the thing about the difference between me and a lot of my means that, the homies that had that thing. Everybody looked at me as like, trigger happy, But he got all the cars, he got all the drug, but then he got it. So, but I had the plug.
Right. You had the plug, and you actually expanded to Mississippi. So now you actually have a multi-state drug operation going. And I guess the question is, because I've talked to a lot of drug dealers over the years. For example, Freeway Ricky Ross. And we were talking about how you got the business people and then you got the robbers. And with him, he never robbed anybody. And if someone robbed him, he usually just let it go and he just went on to the next customer, right? What was the point of having an actual plug and moving real weight and then robbing people at the same time?
Because it's just, to me, it's when I did it because I was out of control. Because even though I had stuff sold up where I had people in every neighborhood. I brung guys up in every neighborhood in Baton Rouge. In parts of Mississippi I was in Beaumont, in Texas. I went to jail in all these spots. So, hey, everything I'm talking about is documented. You know what I'm saying? But I expand, by spreading it, but it was just me with certain people. When I felt like taking it, I took it. You know what I'm saying? Because and it wasn't about no money, it wasn't about jealousy. It really was about, they irked me certain ways with something they done saved, something they did, and I just took their money. You see what I'm saying? And I was on it. If I heard, like I got one for like 10 bricks, but I heard he was telling, he done got knocked, the knocks done hit him 2-3 times, boom, boom, boom. Damn, he's still out here. He ain't going nowhere. So I take it from him. That's the type of time I was on. You know what I'm saying? But other than this, I was just running around just jacking anybody. No. I ain't did it because I didn't have to do it. And that's like me and Rick, Freeway. We was in Lone Park together. You know what I'm saying? And we had conversations on the same level. You know what I'm saying? Because I could have, said that, and I could tell you that I took 40 bricks from him. You know what I mean? And I just went and got 100 bricks, 50 on consignment, and 50 that somebody, that we paid for, and I just moved them. And he was like, well, I don't understand. Why would you do that? Because I didn't like him. I didn't like them. You know what I'm saying? So I was just on that. You know what I'm saying? And then I was on something, I was on a whole nother level even then. You feel me?
Well, you go and rob a drug dealer, and some of them will just take that loss. Others will try to get that money back or try to get revenge. So how often would they try to get that money back and try to come for you for that?
See, we ain't had social media. So, and again, like I told you, we ain't do drive-bys. And they look at everything that's so hard for real. When I say I'm saying what was going on then that people don't know now. They were finding people in dumpsters in Baton Rouge, in ditches. So, hey, if they took something from you and you still was living, they left you living, you left alone. It's simple as that. Why go and bother? And then you know who it is. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay. I mean, did you ever get shot during any of these robberies or the retaliations from the robberies?
No, I ain't never got shot at. But by the police.
Never got shot at?
No,
Okay.
only not the police that shot at me. That's only the police that shot at me.
So none of the street guys that you were ripping off ever came back to try to shoot you?
No. And that's one guy that shot at me, and it wasn't even about me. You feel me? It was, so that's why I'm saying, because I didn't rip him off. That's why I'm saying ain't nobody that I ripped off never came back and did me that. I wouldn't have came back and did me that. You know, if you wasn't just gonna kill me, a lot of it wasn't about doing all that. So, but, you know, I had a guy pull up on side me though, true story. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I'm in my Mustang. I had a cold-blooded one day, and then we be debating about this here. Boosie know about that, you know, he talk about Terry Boy. Yeah, Terry Boy had that Mustang. When he got that Mustang, he lost his mind. But listen, I had a teal green Mustang. I'm talking about, it was out this world. Way 4 minutes to the side, all that. But guy pulled up on side me these dudes pulled on side me in a 300. And I'm listening to my music, it's jamming. I got my head shaking and I'm jamming. And suddenly I look aside and they got a chopper out the one of them. So I hit the accelerator, you know. But I got a Beretta sitting on my lap. And I got that Beretta, I got a 19 round clip in it. You know, that was something back then. You know what I'm saying? I got a Calico sitting on my seat. That's how I was riding, you know. And when I'm riding, but I got 14-inch Vogues and Daytons on here, and the gold Daytons, and so I'm hitting the streets in it, and I can't go too fast when I turn the corner. Listen, dude started hitting it with that chopper, knocked the steering wheel off it. I went straight in somebody's front house or in the yard and went straight through the front porch. Yeah, I just jumped out the car and ran out the back door and kept on going. I ain't even go see who it was. But I knew who it was, but that was about a plug that me and this dude got, you know, we meet up at the same spot. But every time he come back, it happened 2 times, he got jacked by his spot. But he thought it was me. And it really wasn't me. I know who was doing it, but it wasn't me. You know what I'm saying? His old lady was messing with somebody else, you know, and they was sitting in there getting it. But he thought it was me, though. And yeah, you know, they really tried to get at me, though. You know, he thought that's the only, but other than what I did personally, nah, ain't nobody never tried to do me nothing. I thank God. I guess it was his, you know, all a part of his plan.
What was the most number of kilos you ever got at one time?
150.
150 kilos. And how much were kilos going for wholesale back then?
18, 19, 20, see, right up in that, they always fluctuate around that, 18, 19, 20.
All right, so if we just do the math, hold on a second.
No, that wasn't just me, though.
kilos.
That wasn't just me. So you can't just say all that I had all that money, because it was a couple of us on that leg.
Right, well, that's a $3 million pickup, essentially. Was there ever a situation where you got robbed, where you sent some kilos over, you were supposed to pick some up and something went wrong and the money or the drugs disappeared?
No. See, that's why I say, Vlad, people be having Baton Rouge messed up. You hear me? If you come to Baton Rouge back in my time, in my generation, I always say that, and you try to put on something, no, you ain't leaving here. You bring that type of drug, you not leaving here, them drugs not leaving here, point blank. That's what Baton Rouge was on. Then, you know, and that's, you know, so, no, ain't nobody wasn't gonna take nothing from me, you know, because I ain't finna give you nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Everything was with me was in the hood. Everything. You know, everybody had everything that you needed in the hood. You know, when I was out there and I was getting money. And, you know, and that's go from the South, you know what I mean, the Circle K Strip, Dixie, Mayfair, Glen Oaks, Park, Easy Town, Zion City, Banks. Everybody was getting money and guaranteed everybody had somebody that was dealing with Flav.
Well, you said you made over $1 million selling cocaine during that time.
in the way, and I could say I made it because how I was spending it. We would, the same way that you see them young, they spend that. That's how we were spending too now, and it just wasn't public because, every car that I was having, all gold Dayton's in vogue. Automatic, you was spending, at the time, that was like 4 Gianos. That was how Dayton's is now for $40,000 for all gold. But back then, it was like $5,000. Vogues was $1,000. So you paying $6,000, $7,000 and you got 30 cars. You know what I'm saying? Then you got all Alpine and Fires Gate music. We wearing the best jewelry from art to jewelry. So, it's, and it's Jordans and Polos. I started that when they was talking about, everything, Jordans and Polos all day, every day, ballads, all this here. So we were spending this type of money, Everybody had, see, we been wearing all golds. Louisiana, them do Baton Rouge, everybody been wearing all golds in their mouth. You know what I'm saying? Diamonds in their mouth. So all this ain't it. So we were just spending money, and believe it, moms had somewhere good to stay. You know what I mean? Moms had a good to drive. We buying houses. So yeah, the money, it was just coming and going, making bond,
Well, but the violence did start to escalate with you. And at one point, your mother's house got shot up. So even though you weren't getting shot up, it was coming close to home. And I guess your mother actually got shot while she was trying to shield her grandkids?
Yes. She laid on top of them. My oldest son and my 2 oldest niece and nephew. And the police told my mama when they went to the hospital that was me doing that to cover up for what I'm doing out there in the streets. My oldest brother got shot in the back. They paralyzed him. They told my mother, called my mama Ma Barkley. Say they know it's always me because I'm trying to cover, But that's what they told my mother. But my mom ain't get up there and telling them people about whoop-de-whoop did this, he did this, he did no. You know what she told me? I don't know what you got going on in the street. I don't know what you're doing, but don't you go shooting at nobody's houses. And she turned around and she walked off. You hear me? So, my mama got shot. My oldest brother got shot. He's still paralyzed. My little brother, he rest in peace now. He got shot, but right now today, it's still people want to talk about what I did. I did this, I did that. But don't nobody talk about when people were shooting my families. You see what I'm saying? So, but I give it all to God, me.
Did you find out who shot up your mother?
Yeah, I know. They really wasn't shooting my mother. They were shooting up a car. But they was shooting choppers back then, so, them AK, they going through them cars and they went through the house, you know what I'm saying, and hit her in both her legs, you know what I'm saying, so, yeah, hey, but that situation, you know what I'm saying, I don't have no ill feeling for nobody, dealing with that, you know what I'm saying, so, I send them all their condolences, man, they family and everything. They rest in peace. They're in heaven. I hope they're in heaven, man. I pray for everybody right now. But at that time, I had no understanding, why would I? You know what I'm saying? So if they busting their guns, I'm busting mine. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, it was like that.
Well, you ended up getting into a shootout at Memorial Stadium?
Nah, it wasn't never no shootout. It probably me shooting at somebody, though.
Okay. You ended up shooting at somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And right around that time, you got charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, which you ended up beating.
That was on the police officers. Yeah.
Okay, so 3 cops got killed?
No. One got hit and 2 was in the car. So that they give you 3 counts of first-degree attempted murder on all 3 of them.
Okay, attempted murder. Got it.
Right.
And you ended up beating that.
I went to trial for it. I'm saying, though, if somebody following you and they say they got money on your head, people looking for you to kill you, and you a car following you or Camaro, all black with tinted windows. Every corner you hit, they hit. How you gonna feel? What would you think?
So you had money on your head?
That's what they say. They say the reason, that's was their testimony in court, is the reason why they was following me like they was because they knew somebody was trying to kill me. Mm-hmm. So they was trying to catch whoever it was, so they were following me. All I knew was a car following me. I just jumped out and started shooting.
Ah, okay. Well, you would ride around in hearses with Daytons and Vogues, and you would have caskets in the back of them with your enemies' names on them.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a little bit of that, Vlad, because see, I'm saving that for that movie, right? You know, because hey, you know, yeah, you know, it's legendary, but I'll go. No, I'm getting you too much. Yeah, that thing was clean though. Yes, sir. You hear me? Yes, sir.
I mean, that's crazy. You actually are riding around in a hearse with a coffin in the back with someone's name on it.
And listen, and what's so crazy about my picture, man, you hear me? He done rode with me. Right there with me. He with me. But yeah, but that's, you know, yeah, that's for another story, man. We're going to do something with the movie with that one.
Well, by 1992, the ATF and the FBI started seriously investigating you. And because of all the violence, that kind of made you a big target. And like you mentioned, your brother got paralyzed in a shooting. And now things are getting more and more crazy. At one point, you get arrested with 5 bricks of cocaine and a gun going to Texas.
Yeah.
And there was another situation where a shootout happened in San Bernardino in California.
Yeah.
So you end up getting arrested for some of these activities, and you end up escaping by busting your own head open. So explain what happens there.
See, at first it's like California. See, I was back and forward. I've been going there since I was young. So Crip affiliated, A-Trade Gangster Crip. You know, shout out to them Crips, the big C's. But we was in San Bernardino on something else, and you know, they got a different little thing back then. They had IEs, you know what I mean? And if you was coming out of LA, using Crips of blood, whatever it was, they you know, they wasn't going for it. They you know, they're trying to run you from around there. That's how I wound up getting that shootout out there in California, went to jail. But that's as soon as I got out, I wound up going to jail in Texas. That's when it all started with the feds. They started putting together, you know, some type of investigation when they was, because they took my driver's license and everything. They said all this was fake, that I was, you know, running dope with Crips from Texas and California to Louisiana, you know, and that's when the big stuff that really started coming in, you know. But as far as like, you know, and coming from Texas, you know, 5 bricks, gun in the car, you know what I'm saying? And shit, I jumped out on the interstate running then. I wouldn't try to go there.
Well, the escape, when you bust your head open, describe what happens.
You know, I dreamed about this escape though, and I talked to my little brother and them, had them come visit me, this and that. But again, I got the jail sold up. You know, Beaumont, shout out homies, all them Crip 5 deuces. But the little Crip homie, them Pilo, them, we back there in the cell, we talking. I dream. So I tell him, I said, listen, I said, what you did with them 2 razors you had? Because you can't have them razors. He said, I got them hooked. I said, I'm gonna tell you at such and such a time, I want you to cut the back. Man, like, what? I said, man, just cut the back of it. This, cause I can't do that. Cause I'm like, yeah, cause you gonna do that. You got to do it. No, I ain't gonna do that. But anyway, I talk to him and I put his hand in, bam, and I bust the back of my head wide open. But I know that ain't but one Martian gonna be on duty, ain't but 2 deputies, you know, and this gonna be the ones that take me. You know, one thing led to the other, and they got to rush me out there because the whole back of my head bust open, and it's emergency. I got to go to the hospital. And the hospital, I know they're gonna take me to St. Elizabeth, you know what I'm saying, in Beaumont, Texas. So when they bring me out there, the marshals bring me out there, out in the car, and the police, and soon there's a track right there, and there's a red light. Soon they got right there, you know what I'm saying, it went to let going at it, You know, they thinking ain't nothing. We shoot cross, they still I'm bleeding and rush to the hospital. You know, but when we get to the hospital, it's more police is there. So they rush me on up in there. So now they wondering like what was going on right there, but they don't know that commotion was part of me, you know, my plan. So they patch me up, put staples and stuff in the back of my head. And when they run up, when I come out there, soon they bring me out there and the police, you know, my little brother, them rest in peace, man. Him and, you know, my other little man, both of them rest in peace. Run up on them, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, one thing led to the other and shit. I was out for about 3 months.
Well, you're on the run for 3 months, and you end up being featured on America's Most Wanted. And for those that don't know, during that time, that's a huge deal. You're in everyone's homes. Huge TV show. This is before, you know, streaming and cable and so forth. How did it feel when you realized you were on America's Most Wanted?
Flav, I'm riding around in Baton Rouge on all gold Days and Vogues, hitting switches, convertibles, cutlasses, Benzes. You know what I'm saying? 6'4", 6'8" Impalas. I'm literally hanging around like ain't nothing. We got a concert in the club. You know, it's E40. You know what I'm saying? You got Pac, Tupac. I'm all in the club. Police run up in there. Listen, so many marshals come up in there. But listen, they don't know. Because don't nobody know but certain people that I'm in here with these girls here, and I'm dressed up like a woman. Walking right out on them dead. You know what I'm saying? We're in the bottom dead in the South, you know? Hey, you know, so, like I say, I was just, listen, man, I was having fun. But again, you know, it was weird. It was weird doing that in my time, though, Vlad. The movie, man, I'm telling you, I'm gonna I got to keep letting you know, man, I need them people to get that book. You need to encourage them to get the book. You read the book. You understand?
I read the book.
And when they look at the book, y'all see the movie. You're going to see Baton Rouge. You can actually see where Boosie come from, where YoungBoy come from, you can see what made them who they is, man. How this city was even before they was even thought about, you know. So, yeah, man, yeah, I'm talking about Brad, but it was an experience for real after sitting in them prisons and being in them solitary confinements, man, for 3 years straight, 5 years straight, you know, and you don't have nothing but enough time to think. And I was looking over my life and that's thinking about, you know, riding around in a hearse, man, and that's, you know, making the money, taking the chances, you know. Picture me, man, I'm in a Nova, you know. I got 40 bricks on the back seat, 2 9mm on the front seat. And I'm riding on the interstate like it ain't nothing. The interstate I-10 is hot. State troopers, DPS everywhere. But I'll be riding around like it ain't nothing, you know. And when you say about being shot at, the U.S. Marshals shot at me 300 some times. This how many bullets they had to account for. You know, these people telling them in the front of McDonald's, these bullets were just flying over my head. Don't now one of them hit me. So after me that's being in them people prison and sitting down and really just thinking about all that, it got to be a God above, you know.
Well, let's talk about that situation. So you had over 700 marshals pursuing you at one point, and a shootout happened where they shot over 300 times and never hit you.
Never hit.
What exactly happened during that shootout?
I jumped out the car. You know, they surrounded the car. You know, they surround the car, you know. Dude told on me, they been telling too now, Ratchet's been out this dude told on where I was. And they surround the car. When they surround the car, me, you know, hey man, it was do or die for me. You know, and I've been like that all my life, you know, and that's why I had to change that mentality, that way of thinking too, is that what gonna happen just gonna happen is the way I was thinking. And when I got out of the car, I'm looking at them, they looking at me, and I'm pitching, they telling me to get on the ground. Everybody got their cars up, but you got the news people out there with them cameras. So that was my open. I just took out running straight to the cameraman. When I'm running toward him, he falling back, trying to fall off, and the camera going on, the whole city looking at this here. And when he fall, it's the opening come open, so I take off right through that, and I'm running through this field. I'm running through the field. Now they claim, you understand me, I turned around and started shooting at them, and the gun fell, you know what I mean? And that's, no. they start shooting. And when they start shooting, you know, I fired a couple shots back, you know, and I'm taking, you know, and hey, God was with me because I'm here on this video, you know, on this on this interview with you, you know what I'm saying? And I know he was, you know, and I got, you know, and don't you know what really got me was, again, thanking Vlad, is that the U.S. Marshal, that's in my paperwork, you know. See, they could Google me. You can go get my transcripts and all this, and people could see the things that I be saying, you know. Is that man say that if he told the jury, if I ever get out of prison, I'm going to come looking for him and his family to kill them all. You hear what I'm telling you? Why would I do that? I was crazy, you know, I wasn't stupid. Why would I go look for a U.S. Marshal to kill him? You feel? But they gave me, you know, they gave me a life sentence. You know, that was enough to, you know, with all the foolishness that I had going on, and gave me a life sentence. You know what I'm saying? But all that, I kind of reflected back in them cells and thought about that. I was wild, man.
Well, in 1993, you ended up getting recaptured again. And at this point, you had a whole bunch of charges. Now, the judge claimed that you had 10 murders and 21 attempted homicides. You were accused of killing and intimidating witnesses, but they couldn't actually convict you on any of the murders. Why was that?
I ain't do them.
There you have it.
Hey, I ain't do them. They, you know.
Well, you end up getting life plus 40 years. And when that happened, you had some words for the judge.
Yeah, because
what did you call the judge?
Address wearing, you know, and no disrespect to the LBGQs or none of that. Please, I listen. I have no disrespect toward y'all. I'm just saying this is what I call the judge, because that's a dress that he was wearing, you know, and you know, he just kept on going on and on, calling me a murderer, a killer. And my mom and my grandmother was in there, and you know, and it was hurting them. They was crying. Give me that life sentence, let me go on to the penitentiary. You know, that's just how I felt.
Well, you said something interesting. You said, I was one of Satan's best soldiers. I got 10 bodies. That may be dangerous. That may be stupid. That got me life and 40 years away from my family. So you consider yourself a soldier for Satan?
Everybody in the streets is a soldier for Satan. Because you got evil, you got bad, you got good, you know, but it's still, if you believe in these things, if you believe in God, if you believe in the devil, you believe in Satan, you know what I'm saying? So when we doing the wrongness, listen, like I said, I was in the crack era. See, I could picture now, after being up in them prisons, talking to everybody and all the time, see, that was part of that mess up that's going on now. That we looking at and talking about, this is with my kind, with the blacks and the youth. That's part of my destruction. I was part of the ones that sending their fathers to prison, they mothers to prison with the crack. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what that was happening. You was getting killed down, and you're going to prison in the crack era. You know, and that was leaving all them kids out there. You see what I'm saying? So that being a good soldier for Satan. You know, now that I don't do those things, I don't participate in it. I don't even see life that way. Now I'm a soldier for God. You see what I'm saying? When you rob, steal, kill, sell drugs, that's bad. All that's bad stuff. I don't care how you look at it, all that's bad stuff. So that's Satan stuff. But when you over here living a pro-social lifestyle, doing what you doing, you know, working, going to school, helping the kids, helping the elderly, you know, see, all that's good stuff. That's God stuff.
Well, you got sentenced to life plus 40 at 26 years old. What did that do to your head to know that you may not ever go outside ever again?
It made me, personally, it turned me to worse than what I was. Because in them people prison, I was worse than I was on the streets, you know? And when I first went into the BOP system, it was 5 United States penitentiaries. When I left, it was 20, and I've been to all of them. Some of them 2-3 times. And that's because every prison I was in, I stabbed somebody. Every prison I was in, I got drugs and I sold them. Every prison I was in, if the COs got on the line with me, I bust them up. You see what I'm saying? See, I was in prison acting a fool for 27 years. I'm talking about, I didn't see the light until they called me and told me that I was immediate release. And when they told me I was immediate release, I'm in the tank waiting to come to get the people to buy me a bus ticket. My mind was on, when I hit them streets, oh, they finna see what was happening with me. Oh, they gonna know who I am. You see what I'm saying? My mindset was going straight back out here with foolishness. But that ain't how God seen it. He sent me to a county jail in Dufferfield, Virginia. They put 3 counts of first-degree attempted murder, a second-degree murder, an armed robbery, and a felon in possession of a firearm, charges that was outdated by 30 years, that they put on me and put a detainer on me. Them 30 days in that jail, and seeing all those little white kids in Dufferfield, Virginia, everybody around that was on meth, that was in that jail. I hadn't seen not one black in there, but nothing but little white. And that gave me a whole nother outlook on life. Why am I thinking about going out there, doing all this crazy stuff when you got people like this here going through what they going through? So it ain't just over there in my spot, it's over here in this spot. You understand what I'm saying? That's why, you know, when I got out, I felt like I'm going to be a soldier for God. You know, that's what my life changed there, Vlad.
Well, let's talk about as you're going into prison. Well, now you're going in as a lifer. And you go in and you link up with the Louisiana car, but also with the Crip car, because you had connections when you were out. Now, Louisiana, I mean, Baton Rouge didn't really have Crips and Bloods back then, right? So now you're actually working with 2 different crews. How bad were the politics in prison during that time?
The politics is still bad in prison, but, you know, it most definitely was bad. It might be a little worse now because, you know, a lot of them, again, you know, it's so much different synthetic stuff, and a lot of them kids, you know, I'm younger, they don't have no understanding. But the politic was so thick, you know, until you might be on certain yards and it ain't nobody from Louisiana. I done been on yards, it wasn't nobody from Louisiana, it wasn't no Crips on the yard. You know what I'm saying? And it bees like that, you know, because everything go by wherever you go at. If you in California, if you ain't a Crip or you ain't a Blood, you know, and you from Louisiana, Texas, you gonna be a down south car. You know, if you in Hazleton, Virginia, and you from anywhere in the South, if you're not a GD, Vice Lord, Crip or Blood, if you're not gang affiliated, you're gonna be in a down south car. So everything is a car. But when I come in, you know, by me being from Louisiana, you know what I'm saying, and I done been, it's with nobody in there with me. 2 old men that had been there. They got life sentence. One of them been there 30 years, and the other was already in there 27 years. You know, but it was like 2 Crips that I was in YA with. You know, and then you started down there, and one was my co-defendant from Texas. So, you know, it's automatic. I get to, you know, move with both cars. It is unheard of, you know, for real. But I was, because, you know, I'm not one of your originals. And then I was bussing. You know, everybody knew that I ain't had no understanding, Vlad. That's why when I tell you about that, you know, the Freeway Rick or whoever you talk to, you know, in the feds, you know, my name just is worse up in the federal system than it was on the street, you know, and it had to be like that because of what goes on in them systems. It's a war, man. That's a war zone.
Well, you said in prison that you broke every rule, you stayed locked down, you were in every race riot and every war, and you kept a knife with you, and you stabbed a lot of people. How many people did you actually stab in prison during that time?
I got 19 write-ups for stabbings. That's on my BOP record. That includes the one that you ain't get caught for. You know, and being as that, because there's a lot of guys who go in prison, and I seen them dead 20 and 30 years, ain't never been in trouble a day in their life, never got a write-up. I just wasn't one of them dudes. See, I didn't enjoy being in prison. I didn't like being in prison. I didn't want to be in prison, you know. And I did everything that I could possibly thought I was to do to either make them kill me, the people, or somebody to kill me, you know, but I just wasn't going to follow the rules. You know, it It was my mindset. And I come in with you got every gang, like I say, you got every gang in the world in here. And it's a lot of Mexicans against the blacks. There's a lot of, you had the skinheads, the dirty white boys, AB, this and that, against the black. It's a lot of that. And then there's a lot of black on black, So, and then me being who I was. See, I was front line. I'm out there. I'm in the field. So I can't duck no wreck. You know what I mean? So, I ain't missing. If I'm on that yard, there's any kind of ride, if it's dealing with me, I'm out there. It ain't got to be dealing with me. If it's white boys jumping on the black, I'm out there. Mexican doing something to the black, I'm out there. I don't care if you a GD, Vice Lord, Crip, Blood, you from China. That was my mindset,
Well, you yourself, did you ever get stabbed?
One time, and again, I think that was a sign from God because that ain't had nothing to do with me. But I felt like it did, and I'm trying to weigh out, do I want to come home or do I want to stay in prison? And this is what God was trying to show me because I'm sitting here trying to do a motion to get out on this, where I'm out right now. And a little youngin' come asking me about somebody else and I snap, like, don't, because he really ain't supposed to come question me. And I knew he had a knife because he telling me when he catch that person, he gonna put the knife on him. So I jump up and I smack him. And listen, he up with that knife and he went to swing and he hit me one time. And when he hit me, I wound up taking it from him and I hit him like 12 times with it. The police run up, the CO sprayed me with the mace, but that one time could have killed me because I'm talking about so close to my heart till they had to put a tube in it. He was in the hospital about 3 days. I was in there 2 weeks.
Well, in prison, a lot of times, in certain prisons, you have rapes. How often were those rapes happening when you were locked up?
See, I ain't never seen nobody get raped because I ain't walking around prison looking for nobody booty getting tucked. You see what I'm saying? I did, but it goes on, and a lot of times, and I'm being honest, Vlad, and it might sound cruel if you want. A lot of times, them dudes don't get raped. They turn around when somebody find out what happened, or somebody walk up and say that. A lot of them, they get up. It be in them. They just be soft. They be scared. They be killers and gangsters out here on these streets, and they get up in prison and a lot of them don't be raped. Dudes be lying when they be on here talking about every prison they doing a whole lot of rape. No, they don't. Them dudes be getting up there turning themselves out.
Well, you did say that some rapes happen after the victims get drugged.
Yeah, and that was happened when I seen it, or when not seen it, knowing it's when I first came in the system, it was happening in certain spots. Dude, if you just keep on running over here and they be plotting on, you want to keep getting drunk, all right, and get them drunk and molest them, so, but they been and put that on themselves too, though. Why you keep going up in there with them two and people to tell you stay out that room with them booty bandits over there? You understand what I'm saying? If a person tell you that them two guys over there, that's what they own. They always trying to turn out their boys. They always messing with, homosexuals. Stay from out there. But no, you want to go sit up in there and drink the jailhouse hooch and get drunk. Hey, yeah, they ain't rape you.
Now, you end up tying up some guys in prison at one point?
Oh, I tied up a lot of dudes. But I tied up one though, that's real. I was trying to escape. And I tied him up and duct tape him, put toilet paper and stuff all fill his mouth up with and tied his mouth up and put him up under the bunk and got his identity. Now I done made bond. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about my people done paid the bondsman. I'm signing the papers to go out. I'm finna walk out the door. And as I'm walking out the door, the lieutenant coming in. And the lieutenant, the man tell me, he called the name out. Like, hey, don't you come back here, whoop-de-whoop. The lieutenant look at me and like, who you say? He's like, hold up, shut that door. And when he shut that door, they capped me.
Well, at one point, you end up meeting Big Meech in the hole?
Yeah, man, Big Meech was in Atlanta. We was in the hole, both of us wind up, I was going to the smoot at first, and they wind up smooting him. That's special management unit in Lewisburg. And then I was in Lewisburg with him. Yeah, we was in the hole together, did a lot of little talking, you know what I'm saying? And then when I first came home, he was in Forest City with my little nephew, with little Rico, and, they was selling, so I talked to him on the phone.
Well, you actually talked about how you didn't like how 50 Cent was beefing with Big Meech because 50 knew about some incriminating information about him from the start.
Yeah, but this is my thing, though, right? 50, listen, holler at me. You want to make a movie of a real man. You hear me? I ain't going to say that real N-word, but you want to make a real movie, come to Baton Rouge. Come on up out of Sweet Poke. Better come to Baton Rouge, holler at Flav. But yeah, though, but me, Meech, you know what I'm saying? Hey, you know how Meech 50 was. I would have never even fooled with it. If you got any skeletons in your closet, leave 50 alone. You feel me? If anything wrong with you, Vlad, leave 50 alone. That's how that's how he is. He gonna get you.
Well, you and Larry Hoover were locked up together?
Yeah, we was in Marion together. That's a control unit.
Okay. What was Larry like?
Hey, man, I learned a lot from the old man, for real. And I think he need to be freed all the way, for real, because, yeah, he got influence. We all know that, but the influence could stop a whole lot that don't nobody won't stop. When you got enough power for the controlled peace, hey, you is a problem. But yes, sir, yeah, shout out to the old man. Free Larry Hoover real soon. But there's a lot of them. Doc Holliday, you know what I'm saying? BGF, Dr. Shakur, man, all them old men, man, they need to be freed, though. And I was in the control unit and had conversations with all of them. The old head, the L. Rookers, Bajad and them, Rajad and them back in the, you know what I'm saying? I done sat down and really had conversations with these old men. And I'm talking about, because I was in so much stuff, and I was so wild till they took a liking to me, and I always try to come on now, youngin', slow down. You ain't got, man, I got life sentence, I'm gonna die. You're not gonna die in here. Stop saying that. And as I got older, I started, like I say, being in solitary confinement, I started, listening and hearing that, but them, who I, they not just, myths, they not, 50 can't just get their story and then turn around and say they did nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, but it's a lot of them, though, Vlad, though they still up in there, man. They in ADX now. They closed Marion down. That's where we was at first. That was the first control unit. But after I got out of Marion, you know what I mean? So I was on so much, I was on the psychic evaluation. So I couldn't go too many control units.
Well, Boosie would actually send you money in prison.
Who? Boosie?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Matter of fact, listen, I got out the Smoot. I left, I got out 4 Big Meech. That's right, I left Big Meech in the Smoot program in Lewisburg. And I went down when I got out. And when I got out of the Smoot, they had what you call the MP3 players. When I left and went in the program, we ain't had no MP3 players. So I ain't know nothing about that. You can go to the computer, download your music. They had all that when I came out that time there, because I did 2 terms up in the Smoot. I did like about 5 years up in there. But he sent me what it was. I told him they had this music on there, and he told me what I said, man, I need about $1,000 to pull out of me. Sent $5,000 to me. You know what I'm saying? Talking about get this music up off the computer. If I need a lawyer, you know what I'm saying? And my man was out, and he'll tell you today, I told him, listen, I ain't even finna let you spend no more money on no lawyer. Them lawyers ain't gonna do nothing for me. I got this here. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, he did. I got to give him, I gave him his prop. But, again, a lot of them they tried to help me. I appreciate it.
Well, in 2016, NBA YoungBoy released a song called 38 Baby.
Yes,
he's
sir.
actually talking about 38th Street, which is the street that you grew up on.
That's right. Yeah, man, listen. And so, like when you in the feds, at that time, only thing, we screaming Boosie, you know what I mean? And, we screaming Gates, that's Baton Rouge. But see, they from the other side, So you got the ones that's around you that they from where they from the South. So, that's they people. But to anybody else, we repping them. But then when YoungBoy hit the computer, you see what I'm saying? That's 38th Street. And everybody up in listen. From Bridge City, they know me, 38th Kane. You know what I'm saying? That's him, Clarence Robertson, Lil Flav, you know what I mean? So when YoungBoy come out with 38, man, it was something big around there. And then, Young and repping, and I love it, man, because, I really been repping that street from one end, from my end all the way down. We talking about his end. I went to Dalton Elementary. You know what I'm saying? We stayed right around Delaware apartment. So, yeah, I respect them. I respect all of them, man. And what they just did, and came back with the, and did the album, Boosie, YoungBoy, and them. I like that, man. They need to really come together down there, bro.
I mean, how do you feel about NBA YoungBoy and all the beef he's gotten into since he really started to get hot? When you look at the whole beef with Lil Durk, and behind that, King Von ends up getting killed, Quando Rondo gets shot at, and his cousin, Lil Pop, gets killed, and now, you see Lil Durk in prison on attempted murder charges, and then YoungBoy had a whole bunch of charges also and so forth. When you look at all the violence around that, what are your thoughts of it, considering that you're one of the originals that created a lot of the violence in that area?
And I'm glad you asked that question, Vlad, because when I look at that, and I see myself in my era, even though he doing it way bigger, I'm talking, he on another bigger scale than me. And again, we didn't have the social media, and, you might, it's a lot be said, or, Youngin ain't got no guidance. He ain't got, man, listen, he got a lot of guidance. He got a lot of money. His money is guiding him, and I look at it, he living his life. He living how he want to, and he know what's going on around him, Vlad. That's what gets me with people they feel like he don't know. He done been in prison, he done been in jail, there's been a lot of killing going on around him. Like it says, a lot of this and that. He know what's going on around him. You know what I mean? And, one day, I hope it's real soon, he gonna tone it down a little bit. Because he gonna realize them kids is worth more than the media. You know what I'm saying? The baby's gonna be worth more than, his presence, not just the money. But he on a whole nother level right now, though, man. That man on some Michael Jackson, Tupac type shit. You know what I'm saying? For real, man. I need to start rapping and me and him do a song together or something.
Well, it's 2020. You're 53 years old. And you're serving your life sentence plus 40 years. But then at one point, some of the laws change. And there's a situation that actually allows you to get out. Was this something that you actually were researching and working with lawyers on? Or did these laws just come out of nowhere and you just got lucky?
No, actually, Vlad, that was 2015, right? And in 14, I'm talking to Boosie, and I'm talking to my main man, I'm talking to Buster. And I'm telling them then, because like I told you, I had a charge, they used 3 violent prior convictions to give me a life sentence. I'm the only person in the Fed research it. When I got sentenced under the Armed Career Criminal Act in 1993, I'm the only black man in the BOP. I'm the only Mexican, white, Japanese, whatever you want to call it, in the penitentiary with a life sentence under the Armed Career Criminal Act. You see what I'm saying? And they used 3 violent priors. One, what I say when I told you I didn't do that charge. That was my man, them did it, and I copped out to it. So him and Boosie, I was telling them that I'm studying, trying to attack this prior and this juvenile prior that I was a juvenile. You know what I'm saying? I caught this charge as a juvenile, and they saying under the Louisiana state law, manslaughter, you can't use that to enhance me as a juvenile if it was a juvenile conviction. So yeah, it was about that time there. And then in, I think, 15 or 16, United States versus Johnson came out with dealing with the residual clause of what's consist of a crime of violence. That's how I got back to show that my juvenile, under the Louisiana state law, that my juvenile prior conviction, that if you can't enhance under the Habitual Offender Act or the state of Louisiana, you can't do it under the federal statute. That's how that life come up off me. Now, I still had 40 years with the feds that I got from out of Texas, that the judge in Texas sentenced me. a case came out in 18 called United States versus Davis. There was bank robbers, and they was started stacking their charges up, and they had stacked mines up to give me the 40 years. You know, they used the crime of violence, and they used a drug trafficking offense, them two guns, and stacked them and gave me the automatic 20 years for them.
Well, with those laws being changed, you end up actually getting out in 2020. You called it a miracle from God.
No, I got out December the 23rd of 19.
Okay.
That right before the pandemic. And 20.
Got it. So you end up getting out, but then you end up going back because you tested positive for weed?
Listen, when I got out, I was, going to the schools, working, got a job. Never had a job in my life, but I come straight out, I got a job. Then the pandemic hit. So I'm working, I'm still working during the pandemic. I'm talking, speaking to people, doing this speaking engagement. Me and my PO, we started getting into it because they started trying to send me to all these doctors. So the doctors tell me to get on the therapeutic of marijuana for my PTSD, schizophrenic, and all this. So okay, I'm like, all right, I get on that. Soon my PO asked me, did I get my medicine? I tell her, yeah. Took it on urine. Boop, I got it dirty. Locked me up. And they gave me 3 years.
Okay, before you got locked up again, how did it feel to be out after 27 years? Because the whole world is different at this point. You got cell phones, you got social media, Michael Jackson's dead. Like Prince is gone. All this stuff that you're used to is just not in the world anymore.
And what really got me for real was I went to the mall. I got straight off the plane, I flew from Tennessee to Atlanta, from Atlanta to New Orleans, went in the mall. But when I left the mall, I went to Walmart. Right? It's 1 o'clock in the morning, Walmart wide open. And I had been hearing about how people, they walk around in pajamas in Walmart. That was really got me. Then I seen that big old TV on that wall back there. I thought there was a movie. So I'm started telling, my sons them, hey, my son Smooth already breathing. Now they can't stand him. Listen, I'm telling him, I'm like, Smooth, look at this here. What is this here? He's like, Pop, that's a TV. I said, man, that's a movie screen. So everybody else laughing. So I'm like, man, y'all, now they got me like, now y'all laughing, but that is not no TV. But that was a TV actually, and it wasn't nothing but a 75-inch screen, But man, it was just a blessing by God, man. But Vlad, I picked up so quick to, it sometimes it's overwhelming, and I used to find myself sometimes, man, I have to call my mom, because, and I had to ask like, why is this happening to me? Why? It was just so much, so quick, and it was everything good. You understand what I'm saying? I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I'm riding, the police pulling on side me, waving at me. I'm waving back at them, and but I'm still nervous because when I walk in stores, there's so many people, and they coming from so many directions, and I got people shaking my hand, glad to see me. People I don't even know you, So it was a blessing to me though, and I thank God every day. So when I did go back, I promise you, man, it took a lot out of me when I went back. That whatever was left in me, that was on that side, it removed it. That sentence, that 3 year violation, what they gave me, it really changed it changed my whole perspective on me. Before I went back, I still cared about what somebody said about me. I still cared how people, talk about me. They got little guys get on here, they be beefing with my son. They call me rats and this and that. You know what I mean? Hey, you don't even know me or nothing about me. But that used to bother me, But after I go back to that violation and really sit down and think about, hey, man, why would you even, something like that can affect you? Look where you done been at and look where you done came at and look where you trying to be at. If Jesus Christ accept being talked about, why you can't? you know. And then Trump don't care what nobody say about him because he's still being Trump. So, I don't care no more. That's all I'm saying.
Well, how many kids do you have right now?
I have 11 living because I had 12. One of my sons passed back in like 20.
Oh, what happened?
Gun violence, you know.
So one of your sons gets killed, and you did 27 years, so you basically missed out on the raising of all your kids.
That's right. And
how bad do you feel about that situation?
I feel real bad, you know, and I go through it right now today because that it hurts me so to the point that, you know, I be having to call my kids. I understand they grown now. They have, you know, they have their own life. You know what I mean? But, you know, and I explains to them over and over. I understand, you know, everything that was my fault. I did that. I left y'all out here. You know, I made that choice. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, sometimes I don't figure from some of them, I don't get the full chance. You know, everybody, they love their daddy, woo, woo, woo. But I be having to call a bunch of them, some of them so much. You know what I'm saying? Why do I have to call you all the time to talk to you? You know, call me sometime. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, man, there's some fathers that's in them prisons, man. Hey, we was doing what we did, but, you know, it was our choice. But a lot of times we was taking care of our kids too now. But, man, they don't look at it that way, though, man. It's a new generation, man, on how. Because I loved my daddy. Even though my daddy was in prison, I was old enough to go see him. I went seeing him. Whatever he needed, I made sure he had it. You know what I'm saying? And my daddy out here today, and I be there with him. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, it's a hard thing, man, being in prison. And then my kids, like you say, Vlad, my kids was babies, so I don't hold nothing against them. Only thing I be sending just, you know, give me a little more time with you, you know what I mean? Because like the one that left, you know, I can't be mad at that, you know, because that was my choice. And we all got a date to leave here. So we supposed to live to the fullest. That's what means live your life to the fullest, you know, and be ready. So my son that left, I thank God for them the 8 months that he gave me with him. You know what I mean? Because he gave me 8 good months with him to get to know him and for him to get to know me before he left here. So, and I wish I get, you know, keep building that relationship. That's what I'm trying to do with the kids that's still here and my grandkids, man. Yeah, you know.
Well, your son got killed, and then the killer's dad got killed. And they're trying to blame you for that.
Yeah, but that was the streets. You know what I'm saying? And they just hurry up, but you know, all that folk, you know, it cleared itself up, you know, or whatever. But that's the same way it was, you know, for years. Now, every time something happened, my name always pop up. You know what I mean? And I can understand that because that's the life I lived. You know, if you take one of mine, I'm gonna take one of yours. You know, that's the mentality that I used to have is what I try to tell people. I'm not who I used to be. I am who I am. I can't change that. You know, I'm just not that same person. You know, so that's another thing that the court was trying to use too, you know, with that, you know, but yeah, that wasn't nothing, man, you know. My son, you know, he in heaven, you know.
Well, at this point, all the crime is behind you. You're a regular citizen now. You're working jobs. You found God. But when you look back on what you did, you made over $1 million during the crack era, but you actually regret the destruction that you caused. You said the crack game was good to hustlers, but bad to the streets. Look at all the lives that I destroyed. When you look back on that, do you wish that you had done things differently?
You know, I ask myself that over and over and I don't know what part of my life that I could have made different though. So if I say, well, dog, I can go to 89, if I could change 89, you see what I'm saying? What about 80? What about 79? Because if I could change what happened in 79, it would have never happened in 1989. But then I wouldn't be who I am right now today. I wouldn't have them lovely kids and grandkids that I have right now today if I could change it. And do I regret it? No. I can't regret nothing that I did because I can't change it. It didn't already happen. You know, if I could constantly tell you, I'm sorry, but it still happened. I still hurt you. I still affected you. You know what I'm saying? So only thing I'm trying to do now is just move forward and not continue to live in my past. And I ask people not to continue to look at me from my past. Take, for instance, you know, trying to put this documentary together, putting this movie together. See who I was, but then see who I am right now today. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, everything that I did then, it's still part of what's going on today. But because I did it and became who I am now, it can show you could do these things. You know what I'm saying? You know, so yeah, that's where I'm at, Vlad.
Well, 38 Flav, man, I appreciate we finally got a chance to do this. And congratulations on turning your life around.
Yes,
I don't
sir.
think that you're going to go, it doesn't seem like you're going to go back to prison ever again.
No,
it seems
sir.
like you've learned all the lessons you needed to learn. You've changed your life around. You're doing something positive. And ultimately, I think you're going to show a lot of people, especially Baton Rouge, that although you were doing it one way before, you could turn things around, because Baton Rouge is still messed up. Baton
really
Rouge
is.
still has a very high homicide rate. It's like 46.1 homicides per 100,000 residents, which is way above the national average. For example, Compton is 20 per 100,000. Atlanta's 33.8. Jacksonville, which is crazy, is only 8.6. So things are still bad in Baton Rouge, but hopefully things will improve over time.
And that's why, you know, Vlad, right now, again, I'm in the mix. I'm trying to, you know, find me some donations and some assistance for this. I'm trying to open up this snack shack and cafe, and it's like an after school spot for the youth. You know what I'm saying? To be able to educate them and bring the ones that are around, man. As far as I got, you know, some good pastors. I'm talking about that still preaching the word. I got some good teachers. I got some doctors. I got attorneys that's willing. Whatever I have going on, they're gonna assist me with it. You know what I mean? But I know that I need a surrounding to put them in, you know, and that's what I'm at right now trying to do.
That's what it is, man. And, you know, this interview really got triggered because I mentioned your name to Boosie last time I was doing this interview. And I said, you know, Flav's like, oh, absolutely. That's a Baton Rouge legend right there. So I'm like, okay, I got to do this interview. So you can thank Boosie for this, man, once again.
Man. Hey, man, I mess with Boo, man. I mess with Young Hatch. You know it. I'm planning on going out there and doing a little fishing before it get cold. I ain't going to let him get away from me. But see, he don't want to put that money on him no more, right? You know, I told him, put the bag on their head, because they say he has some little prizes right there. I would come out there and throw that old fishing pole out there then. I'll catch me some of the bags.
Man. That's what it is.
Yes,
so, Flav,
sir.
man, I appreciate you telling your story, man. Wish you all the best.
Yes, sir.
Until next time.
Anytime, man, anytime.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Until next time.
Yes,
Peace.
sir. Peace.